Good evening. Tonight's presentation concerns the most peculiar disturbance in the fabric of reality itself, a disturbance that began, as these things often do, with humanity's insatiable hunger for knowledge and our tendency to reach for things we don't quite understand, a scientific triumph, a doorway opened, a bridge to the impossible, and from that single achievement unfolded consequences far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Before we proceed, a brief confession. The broadcasts you are about to hear were created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. The voices are synthetic. The events, however fantastical, are orchestrated by human minds. Technology provides the machinery, but imagination turns the gears. What follows is entirely fictional. Any resemblance to real places, real personalities, or real failings in our modern world is purely accidental. And yet, you may discover that when we tear holes in the universe, we rarely get to choose what comes through, much like the creatures at the heart of our tale. The broadcast will begin momentarily. Enjoy the show.
Good evening. I'm Alan Sadler. Tonight we're bringing you special coverage from Geneva as scientists at CERN prepare for what they're calling the most ambitious physics experiment in human history. 7 years of construction, contributions from 83 nations, a price tag exceeding $20 billion. Tomorrow morning, the Quantum Bridge Accelerator will attempt something that was pure science fiction just a generation ago. For those unfamiliar with the project, let me provide some context. The quantum bridge isn't just another particle collider. It's designed to create what physicists call an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a stable, traversable wormhole, a shortcut through the fabric of space-time itself. The implications are staggering. If successful, this technology could revolutionize space exploration. Journeys that would take centuries using conventional propulsion could theoretically be completed instantaneously. The stars themselves might finally be within our reach. But the road to tomorrow's test has not been without controversy. We'll explore both the promise and the concerns surrounding this landmark experiment. First, let's look at how we got here. The Quantum Bridge project began nearly a decade ago when theoretical physicists proposed that recent advances in quantum field theory and gravitational wave detection had finally made wormhole creation feasible. Not just theoretically possible, but actually achievable with current technology. The international scientific community rallied behind the proposal. Within 2 years, funding was secured from governments and private institutions around the world. Construction began in 2018 on a new facility adjacent to CERN's existing campus in Switzerland. The accelerator ring itself spans 17 miles in circumference, buried nearly 300 feet underground. It contains over 50,000 superconducting magnets cooled to temperatures colder than outer space. The detection chamber where tomorrow's wormhole will form is lined with sensors more sensitive than any previously constructed. When operational, the quantum bridge will consume more electricity than the entire city of Berlin. Power companies across Europe have coordinated to ensure grid stability during the test. Joining me now from outside the CERN facility is our science correspondent, Jennifer Walsh. Jennifer, what's the atmosphere like there tonight?
Thanks, Alan. There's definitely an electric feeling here, and I don't just mean from all the equipment. Crowds have been gathering outside the facility since this morning. Some are celebrating, treating this like humanity's next great leap forward. Others are protesting, concerned about potential risks. Behind me, you can see the main entrance to the facility. Security is extremely tight tonight. Only essential personnel are being allowed inside as the team makes final preparations for tomorrow's test. I spoke with several scientists earlier today, and the excitement is palpable. One researcher told me this feels like being present for the Wright brothers' first flight or the Apollo moon landing. They believe they're about to witness history.
Have the scientists addressed the safety concerns that protesters have raised?
They have, Alan. The CERN team has conducted extensive safety reviews. They've published hundreds of pages of analysis demonstrating that the experiment poses no threat to Earth or its inhabitants. The wormhole they're creating will be microscopically smaller than an atom initially. It will exist for only a fraction of a second. The team has designed multiple fail-safe systems to ensure the experiment remains completely controlled. That said, Some independent physicists have raised questions about unforeseen consequences. When you're literally manipulating the fabric of reality, they argue, there may be effects we can't predict. But these voices represent a small minority in the scientific community.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll check back with you as the countdown approaches tomorrow. To help us understand exactly what will happen during tomorrow's test, I'm joined by Dr. Ian Murphy, one of the lead theoretical physicists on the Quantum Bridge project. Dr. Murphy, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Alan. It's wonderful to be here on the eve of such a momentous occasion.
For our viewers who aren't physicists, can you explain in simple terms what you're attempting to do tomorrow?
Of course. Imagine space-time as a fabric, like a bed sheet stretched flat. Normally, if you want to travel from one point to another on that sheet, you move across its surface. But what if you could fold the fabric, bring two distant points together, and create a tunnel between them? That's essentially what a wormhole is. Tomorrow, we'll be generating an enormous amount of energy in a very precise way. This energy will create a tiny distortion in space-time, a microscopic tunnel connecting 2 points in our laboratory. We'll send test particles through this tunnel and measure their journey. If successful, it will prove that Einstein was right, that these bridges through space-time.
Some critics have suggested this is dangerous, that manipulating space-time could have unintended consequences. How do you respond to those concerns?
I understand the apprehension. When we split the atom, people had similar fears, but we've been incredibly thorough in our analysis. The scale of what we're doing is extraordinarily small. We're creating a wormhole that would be invisible to the naked eye, lasting mere microseconds. Think of it this way. We're not opening a door. We're creating a pinhole, a tiny, controlled pinhole to peek through. Nothing can pass through it except the particles we deliberately send, and the wormhole will collapse almost instantly. The mathematics is sound. The safety protocols are robust. We've accounted for every variable we can imagine.
You sound very confident.
I am. This team represents the finest minds in physics from around the world. We spent years preparing for this moment, years running simulations, checking our calculations, peer reviewing our work. Tomorrow, we take the first step toward answering questions humanity has asked for millennia. Are the stars within our reach? Can we transcend the limitations of distance and time? I believe the answer is yes. And tomorrow, we begin to prove it.
What happens if the experiment fails?
Then we learn from it. Science progresses through both success and failure. But I should clarify, there are different types of failure. We might not create a stable wormhole on the first attempt. The tunnel might collapse faster than predicted. Our measurements might not be sensitive enough to detect everything we hope to observe. But catastrophic failure? The energy suddenly going out of control? Our models show this is essentially impossible. We've built multiple redundant safety systems. The moment anything deviates from expected parameters, the experiment automatically shuts down.
So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Geneva time, you'll attempt to create humanity's first wormhole.
That's correct. The countdown begins at 8:30. By 9:15, we'll know if we've succeeded.
Dr. Murphy, thank you for helping us understand what's at stake tomorrow. We wish you and your team the very best.
Thank you, Alan. This is an exciting time to be alive. Tomorrow, we reach for something humanity has dreamed about for generations.
We'll be covering the experiment live tomorrow morning. Our team will be positioned at CERN to bring you every moment of this historic test. Whether tomorrow brings triumph or setback, it represents a remarkable achievement in international cooperation and scientific ambition. 83 nations working together toward a common goal, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, daring to ask what's possible. The quantum bridge may succeed. It may fail. But the attempt itself speaks to something fundamental about our species. We explore, we question, we reach beyond our grasp. Tomorrow, that reach extends to the very fabric of space-time itself. Join us tomorrow morning for live coverage of the Quantum Bridge experiment. It promises to be a day that will be remembered, one way or another, for generations to come. This is Alan Sattler. Thank you for joining us, and good night. Good evening and welcome to our special coverage. Tonight we witness history as scientists at CERN prepare for what many are calling the most significant scientific breakthrough of our time. After decades of theoretical work and 7 years of construction on the Quantum Bridge Accelerator, the team is about to attempt the creation of a stable, traversable Einstein-Rosen bridge, what lay people might call a wormhole. I'm joined by our network of correspondents around the world as we bring you live coverage of this momentous occasion. The atmosphere in Geneva is electric, with crowds gathering outside the facility despite the late hour. Scientists have described this as our first step toward potentially unlocking interstellar travel. Let's watch now as the CERN team begins the final countdown. You're seeing this live from the main control room in Geneva. The Quantum Bridge is now powering up, drawing more electricity than the entire city of Berlin. The team has confirmed all systems are operating within expected parameters. Director Hoffman has just given the final go-ahead. Let's go live to the countdown.
All right, team. T-minus 1 minute. Sarah, status?
All systems nominal. Energy levels climbing on schedule. Honestly, my hands won't stop shaking.
Mine either. Ian?
The numbers look beautiful, Director. Everything's exactly as predicted.
30 seconds. Final check.
20.
Magnetic containment.
19.
Stable at
18,
99.7%.
17. 16.
Power grid.
15.
Drawing 1.2
14,
gigawatts, holding steady.
13, 12,
Then let's make history.
11,
Field
10,
generators
9,
active.
8,
Energy climbing
7,
60%,
6, 5,
80%,
4,
95%.
3, 2,
We have stabilization.
Space-time curvature confirmed. We have a wormhole.
Confirm formation.
Visual confirmation. Stable Einstein-Rosen bridge diameter 3.7 microns. Sending test particles through now.
Particles detected on exit side. Transit instantaneous. We did it.
7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just created the world's first traversable wormhole.
Wait, Sarah, Sector 7 sensors. There's a secondary resonance pattern.
Probably harmonic feedback. We expected some ancillary effects.
But the frequency doesn't match our models.
Is it within parameters?
Yes, but it's anomalous.
Log it for review. Sarah, initiate shutdown sequence.
Reducing field strength. Bridge collapsing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Field terminated.
Director, the secondary resonances. They didn't fully collapse.
What do you mean?
They're still there. Very small but persistent. The decay rate is slower than it should be.
Ian, we just opened a doorway through space-time. A few unexpected readings are hardly cause for concern.
She's right. Log everything, run a full analysis. But for now, enjoy the moment. What we did here will be remembered for centuries.
I hope you're right.
And there it is. The confirmation signals are coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in human history, scientists have successfully created a stable microscopic wormhole. This is extraordinary. We're receiving images now from the detection chamber. That shimmer you see, that distortion in space, is the actual wormhole. Though only microns in diameter, it represents a fundamental breakthrough in our understanding of physics. The team is reporting that test particles sent through the bridge have emerged exactly as predicted. This is not theoretical anymore, this is real. Look at the celebrations erupting in the control room. 7 years of work, billions in funding, and countless skeptics who said it couldn't be done. Yet there it is. We're seeing similar scenes of celebration from viewing parties around the world. Tokyo, London, Cape Town, Sydney, people everywhere recognizing that they're witnessing a turning point in human history. Joining me now is Dr. Ian Murphy, one of the lead theoretical physicists on the CERN Quantum Bridge project. Dr. Murphy, congratulations on this incredible achievement. Can you help our viewers understand exactly what we've witnessed today?
Thank you, Alan. What we've accomplished today is something humanity has dreamed about since Einstein first theorized these bridges nearly a century ago. We've created a stable connection, a doorway, if you will, between 2 points in space-time. The wormhole you see is tiny, Microscopic, really, but it represents a profound shift in what we thought possible. For the first time, we have bent the fabric of reality itself to our will. This is just the beginning, the first note in what will become a cosmic symphony. Think of it this way. Before today, we were like ancient sailors hugging the coastline. Now we've built our first compass. The stars, other worlds, perhaps even other dimensions, they're no longer just objects of wonder and speculation. They're destinations, doorways waiting to be opened.
Our test particles traveled through a quantum tunnel that, by conventional physics, should take billions of years to traverse, and they did it instantaneously. It's as if we found a loophole in the universe's programming code. The implications are simply staggering. Some viewers have expressed concerns about safety. There have been theories about wormholes potentially creating unforeseen consequences. Can you address those fears?
I understand those concerns. We've all seen the science fiction films about experiments gone wrong, but I can assure you that safety has been our paramount concern throughout. We detected some minor sensor anomalies during the test. A few readings that were, shall we say, curious, but they all fell well within our expected parameters. Nothing that gives us any cause for alarm. We've created something tiny, controlled, and beautiful. The energy required to create anything large enough to pose any conceivable threat would be astronomical, more than our entire planet could generate. What we've done is more like opening a keyhole to peek through, not flinging open a door that can't be closed.
And what comes next? Where does the project go from here?
We'll be conducting additional tests over the coming weeks, gradually increasing the stability duration and perhaps even the diameter of the bridge. Our ultimate goal is to create a wormhole large enough to transmit more complex data, perhaps eventually matter itself. We've opened doorways to the stars themselves, Alan. The cosmos is calling to us, and for the first time, we have answered. The children born today will live in a world where the impossible has become possible. They may be the first generation to truly reach beyond our solar system. It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
Humbling indeed. Thank you, Dr. Murphy, for helping us understand the significance of today's achievement. We look forward to following the project's progress in the weeks ahead. As we continue to monitor celebrations around the world, we're reminded of other great leaps forward in human history: the moon landing, the splitting of the atom, the sequencing of the human genome. Each opened new frontiers of possibility. Each changed our understanding of what humanity could achieve. Today's breakthrough at CERN now joins those historic milestones. For our viewers just joining us, scientists at CERN have successfully created the world's first stable wormhole, a breakthrough that could eventually revolutionize space travel and our understanding of physics. Stay with us as we continue our special coverage of this extraordinary day for science and for humanity's future among the stars. I'm Alan Sattler, and we'll be right back after this break. We interrupt our coverage of the CERN breakthrough for this special address from the White House. The President is expected to comment on today's historic achievement. Let's go there live.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, today is a great day, a tremendous day, maybe the most tremendous day in scientific history. Many people are saying, today we proved that when humanity works together, nothing is impossible. It's like when the Avengers assembled. Folks, except this is real life, and we're the heroes. The scientists at CERN, brilliant people, absolutely brilliant, have done what everyone said couldn't be done. We've got the best scientists, the smartest people. They said it couldn't be done. They always say that, but we did it. We showed them. America and our international partners have created the first wormhole. Can you believe it? A real wormhole. I just got off the phone with the CERN director. Great guy, really smart. And he told me this is just the beginning. This administration has already approved additional funding for the next phase of this project. The biggest funding increase in the history of science. By the way, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Our children won't just watch Star Wars. They'll live it. They'll be out there among the stars, believe me. I've directed NASA and our Space Force to begin incorporating this technology into our exploration programs immediately. Just imagine it, instant travel across the galaxy. No more of those long, boring trips through space that take years and years. Who has time for that? Not Americans. We like to get places fast, and now we will. This is bigger than the moon landing, bigger than anything. Some people are saying this is the greatest achievement in human history. I don't disagree, and it happened on our watch, under this administration's leadership. When I took office, I promised we would achieve things nobody thought possible. I promised American ingenuity would lead the way. And look what happened. Promises made, promises kept. Tonight, as we celebrate this incredible achievement, let's remember what makes America special. Our drive to explore, to push boundaries, to go where no one has gone before. Just like Captain Kirk always said, great show, by the way, maybe the best show. God bless America, God bless our scientists, and God bless our future among the stars. It's going to be beautiful, folks, really beautiful. Thank you.
The president there, speaking from the Oval Office on today's historic achievement at CERN. His administration has already pledged additional funding for the next phase of the Quantum Bridge project. We now return to our continuing coverage of this breakthrough event, with reactions pouring in from scientific communities around the world. Stay with us. Good evening. I'm Alan Sattler. Our top story tonight, celebration continues around the scientific world as CERN's Quantum Bridge experiment enters its second week of successful operation. But first, we turn to some lighter news that's been making waves on social media. Unusual animal sightings have been popping up across several rural areas this week, in what wildlife officials are dismissing as a case of overactive imaginations. Reports of strange creatures have emerged from several unconnected locations. While most experts attribute these to misidentifications or hoaxes, the stories have captivated online communities. Here's a look at some of the more colorful accounts. We start with a cattle ranch in Montana, where farmer Robert Muldoon says something damaged his perimeter fencing overnight. He spoke with our local affiliate earlier today.
I've been raising cattle for 37 years. Never seen anything like this. Whatever broke through my fence wasn't no bear. Bears don't leave tracks like these, three-toed, bigger than my hand, and the way it tore through that steel wire, these tracks ain't from any elk I ever seen. My dogs won't even go near that side of the property now. They know something ain't right.
We also spoke with local Sheriff Ray Arnold, who offered a different perspective.
People see what they want to see. We get reports like this every spring. Deformed elk, maybe bears, probably just a moose with a leg injury. Changed how its tracks look. Nothing to get worked up about. No need to start talking about, I don't know, dinosaurs or whatever folks are saying online.
Meanwhile, a viral video claiming to show some kind of creature in a community pool in Florida has racked up over 7 million views. We asked visual effects expert Henry Wu to take a look.
It's clearly CGI. Look at the lighting here. See how it doesn't match the rest of the scene. And the water displacement is all wrong. This is beginner level animation work. I've seen better effects in student films. Anyone with a decent laptop and some free software could create this in a weekend. People are so desperate for attention these days.
And finally, a commercial fishing vessel off the coast of Maine reported unusual damage to their hull after what the captain described as an impact with something large. Harbor Master Vic Hoskins offered this explanation.
Happens all the time. Submerged shipping container. Probably they fall off cargo ships during storms, float just beneath the surface. We've had 3 incidents like this already this year. Nothing mysterious about it. Captain should have been more careful in those waters. That's all I have to say on the matter.
In response to the flurry of unusual reports, the government released a statement today. No credible threats have been identified at this time. These incidents are unrelated and explainable. The public should not be concerned. We reached out to CERN to ask whether there could be any connection between these sightings and last week's quantum bridge experiment. Dr. Ian Murphy was quite clear in his response.
Impossible. No connection whatsoever. The wormhole we created was microscopic, controlled, and monitored with the most sensitive instruments ever developed. Nothing passed through it except the test particles we sent. These stories are simply coincidental timing, nothing more. The bridge is stable and functioning exactly as designed.
So there you have it. Just some colorful stories to brighten your newsfeed. Officials assure us there's no cause for alarm, and scientists dismiss any connection to recent experiments. In other news, stock markets continued their rally today on optimism about new technologies emerging from the Quantum Bridge project. Tech shares led the way with gains of nearly 3%. We'll have more on these stories and the rest of the day's developments coming up at 11. For now, this is Alan Sattler with the Evening News. Thank you for joining us, and good night.
Hey everyone, Roland Tembo here with another Truth Exposed broadcast. I wasn't planning to stream tonight, but what I've uncovered in the past 24 hours is too important to wait. Too many lives are at stake. Listen to me. Every single animal incident, every single one started the day of the CERN experiment, not a week before, not a month before, the exact same day. I've got the documents right here. Look at the pattern. Look at it. Montana, Florida, Maine, Oregon, Texas, all within hours of them firing up that machine. You think that's a coincidence? You think that's normal? See these red circles? Each one marks a sighting or incident. Now look at this. I've overlaid the electromagnetic field disruptions recorded by amateur radio operators at the exact same time. The patterns match. They're covering this up. The globalists, the scientists, the government, they opened something they can't control, something they don't want you to know about. Something came through and they are lying to your face. That scientist on TV today, Murphy, he knows. They all know. Look at his eyes when he denied it. Classic signs of deception. I've studied this stuff for years. I'm telling you right now, stock up, get ready. Water, canned food, ammunition. They won't tell us until it's too late. By the time they issue an official warning, it'll already be beyond containment. This is not a drill, people. This is real. The things coming through, they're not from another planet. They're from here, but not our time. Think about it. What did they call it? An Einstein-Rosen bridge. A bridge goes two ways. Yeah. Truth Seeker 42, I see your comment. Roland's finally lost it. Dinosaur conspiracy. Laugh all you want. Mock me. They always mock the ones who see the truth first. They can laugh all they want. We'll see who's laughing when these incidents start happening in populated areas, when these misidentified animals start showing up in suburbs and cities. Viewer counts up to 47,000 and climbing. Share this stream. Get the word out. I'll be back tomorrow with more evidence. The truth doesn't stay buried forever. Remember, they opened a door, and they have no idea what's coming through. Roland Tembo, signing off. Stay vigilant, stay prepared, stay alive.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program with some breaking news. We're receiving reports of an unusual situation developing in Tokyo. We're going to switch to our correspondent, Ellie Grant, who is currently in a news helicopter above Shibuya Crossing. Ellie, what can you tell us?
Thanks, Alan. I'm currently hovering above Shibuya Crossing, where something unusual is happening. What you're seeing on your screens right now is some kind of atmospheric disturbance that formed approximately 7 minutes ago. I'm not sure how to describe this. It looks like a shimmer in the air, almost like heat rising from pavement, but it's much more pronounced. The police have started clearing the area. Initial reports suggested this might be some kind of promotional event for a film or video game, but officials are now saying that's not the case. The disturbance appears to be growing larger. It's now roughly the size of a city bus and expanding. The shimmer is becoming more defined. Wait, there's something, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. Something is coming through the distortion. It looks like, no, that can't be right. People are running. Something's happening. Oh my God, there are creatures emerging from the shimmer. They're unlike anything Police are arriving in force now. I can hear sirens. The creatures are moving through the crossing. They're attacking people. This is not a drill or a hoax. This is really happening. They're firing on them. Police are firing on the creatures. The bullets they don't seem to be stopping them. More are coming through the shimmer. The military is arriving now. I can see vehicles approaching from the east side of the crossing. They're evacuating civilians. The shimmer is still, it's fluctuating. It's closing. The shimmer is closing, but the creatures that came through are still here. Alan, I don't know how to process what I'm seeing. This can't be.
What are we looking at, Ellie? Can you describe the creatures?
They look like, this sounds crazy, but they resemble velociraptors, like from, the movie Jurassic Park, but they're real. They're attacking people and they're killing them. The military is engaging, but these things are fast, so fast. I count at least 12 of them spreading throughout the area. The death toll, I can't even begin to estimate.
I don't know what to tell you. This appears to be real. We're going to stay with this live coverage from Tokyo. If you're just joining us, what you're seeing is unprecedented. Some kind of portal opened in Shibuya Crossing, and what appear to be prehistoric creatures emerged and are now loose in the city. We're going to try to get someone from the government to comment. I'm told we have Tim Malcolm, Undersecretary of Defense, on the line. Mr. Malcolm, what can you tell us about what's happening in Tokyo?
Thank you for having me, Alan.
We are monitoring the situation closely. I want to assure the American people that this is an isolated incident. We're working with our Japanese allies to understand exactly what has occurred.
Our preliminary assessment suggests a localized anomaly of unknown origin. We have no reason to believe similar events will occur elsewhere. I would caution against speculation at this early stage.
Mr. Malcolm, with all due respect, we're watching dinosaurs, or something that looks exactly like dinosaurs, attacking people in downtown Tokyo. Are you saying the government has no explanation for this?
We are investigating all possibilities. Please understand that we're gathering information as quickly as possible.
The most important thing right now is for people to remain calm. Panic will not help anyone. Japanese authorities have the situation under control. When we have verified information to share, we will do so.
Is there any connection to the CERN experiment last week? The timing seems...
That would be premature speculation. We have no evidence of any such connection at this time. I'm afraid I need to go. We're needed in the Situation Room. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. We're going to stay with our live coverage from Tokyo. Ellie, are you still with us?
I'm here, Alan. The military has established a perimeter. They appear to have contained some of the creatures, but others are still loose in the surrounding neighborhoods. The death toll is significant. Hundreds, at least, maybe more. The shimmer that they emerged from has completely disappeared. No trace of it remains. But these animals, they're still here, still killing. I've never seen anything like this. No one has.
We're going to stay with this breaking story throughout the evening. For those of you just tuning in, we are witnessing what can only be described as a nightmare unfolding in Tokyo. Some kind of portal opened in the middle of Shibuya Crossing, and what appear to be prehistoric predators emerged and are now loose in the city. Government officials have offered little explanation, and authorities are struggling to contain the threat. We'll continue to bring you updates as this unprecedented situation develops. Stay with us. This is Alan Sattler, reporting on what may be the most extraordinary and terrifying day in modern history.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in for the first time, my name is Owen Grady, and this is Unfiltered Reality, where we dive deep into the stories behind the stories, and man, do we have a big one today. By now, I'm sure all of you have seen the footage from Tokyo. The mainstream media is calling it an incident or an anomaly, but we all know what we saw. Those were dinosaurs, folks. Actual living dinosaurs on the streets of a major city in 2020. I've been getting literally thousands of messages asking me to cover this, and trust me, I've been working around the clock to get someone who can help us make sense of what's happening. Today, I've got a very special guest. Someone who's been talking about the risks of CERN's experiments for years. Someone who, honestly, I thought was completely out there, but after what we all saw in Tokyo, maybe he's the one who's been right all along. Joining me via remote link is Roland Tembo, host of Reality Alert and a prominent voice in the alternative research community. Roland, thanks for joining us, man.
Owen, I appreciate you having me on. A lot of your mainstream guests probably warned you against talking to me, said I damage your credibility, but the truth doesn't care about credibility, does it?
Look, I've always tried to keep an open mind. That's what this show is about, right? Having the conversations nobody else will have. And after what happened in Tokyo, I think a lot of people are questioning everything they thought they knew about reality. So let's dive right in. You've been warning about CERN's experiments for years. You specifically talked about dimensional breaches on your show 3 months ago. Tell me what you know.
The so-called quantum bridge experiment was never about what they told the public. Never. CERN has been operating as a front for much deeper research since at least I have documents internal communications showing they've been detecting quantum anomalies for years. The public thinks this is about wormholes for space travel, but it's always been about piercing the dimensional barriers. They're not reaching out to distant space, they're reaching backward in time.
Wait, so you're saying they knew this could happen? That dinosaurs could come through?
They didn't know exactly what would happen, but they knew something would break through. Look at the timing. Experiment happens. 1 week later, strange animal sightings worldwide, then Tokyo. This isn't coincidence. My sources inside CERN, and yes, I have sources, told me months ago that they detected temporal energy signatures during previous, smaller tests. Energy patterns that matched what we know of the Cretaceous period. They kept running the experiments anyway.
That's a pretty serious accusation. You're essentially saying they risk global safety for what exactly? What would be the motivation?
2 things drive this kind of recklessness: funding and legacy. The people behind this want to be remembered like Einstein or Oppenheimer. They want to be the ones who fundamentally changed human understanding of physics. And there are certain interested parties who stand to gain enormously from controlled access to prehistoric biological materials. Think about it. Dinosaur DNA, prehistoric plant compounds, organisms that evolved in completely different atmospheric conditions. The pharmaceutical and biotech applications alone are worth trillions.
But surely no one would risk a scenario like what we're seeing now. I mean, people are dying, Roland.
That's where the arrogance comes in. They believe they could control it. Small, stable breaches under laboratory conditions, extract what they want, close it up, nobody's the wiser. Classic human hubris. But reality doesn't work like that. Once you tear the fabric of space-time, it doesn't just heal on command.
Let's talk about what's happening now. The government is saying Tokyo is contained, that it was an isolated incident. What's your take?
Contained? They can barely contain a college campus party, and they want us to believe they've contained interdimensional dinosaurs. Please. I have contacts in 6 different countries reporting similar anomalies forming and disappearing. Small breaches, opening just long enough for something to slip through. The Japanese military isn't even in control of parts of Tokyo anymore. They've quietly evacuated 3 entire districts. You won't hear that on the news. The official death toll they're reporting is off by a factor of 10.
I've got a team checking those claims right now, and we'll update our audience as we verify it. But let me ask you this. What happens next? What's your prediction?
The breaches will continue. They'll get larger, more frequent, and harder to hide. We'll see one in a major Western city within days, not weeks. And when that happens, they won't be able to maintain the isolated incident narrative anymore. We're looking at an extinction-level threat. Owen, not from the dinosaurs themselves, although they're certainly dangerous, but from the cascading failure of the dimensional boundaries. The physics is complex, but essentially, each breach weakens the overall structure of our reality, like cracks spreading in a windshield.
So what should people do? Our listeners are tuning in from all over the world right now. What's your advice?
Get out of major cities now. Not next week, not when the government tells you to now. The breaches are attracted to energy concentrations, and cities are basically giant energy matrices. Go rural, go high, and go soon. Stock up on supplies, food, water, and ammo. Keep physical maps. The internet and cell networks will fail when power grids go down. Have a battery-powered radio. Find your community. Humans survive in groups, not as individuals. And most importantly, don't believe the official story. When they say it's under control, that's when you should really start worrying.
Man, that's heavy. Some of our listeners might think this sounds like fear-mongering.
2 weeks ago, they would have called the idea of dinosaurs in Tokyo fear-mongering too. I'd rather be called an alarmist than watch unprepared people suffer. I've been right so far. I don't want to be right about what comes next, but history suggests I will be.
You've been tracking unusual animal sightings for years on your show. What patterns are you seeing now that the mainstream media isn't covering?
The reports are following population centers. That's the pattern everyone's missing. The early sightings weren't random. They clustered around cities, usually within a 100-mile radius of major urban areas. The Tokyo breach wasn't the first. It was just the first one that couldn't be covered up. I have documented evidence of at least 17 smaller incursions in the week leading up to Tokyo, all quickly handled by various agencies. I've mapped all the reported sightings, and there's a clear pattern of escalation. The frequency is increasing exponentially. Based on my calculations, we're days away from a breach that'll make Tokyo look like a minor incident.
Can I ask you something directly? Roland, you've built your brand on questioning mainstream narratives. How do I know you're not just using this crisis to gain followers?
Fair question. Look at my track record. 3 months ago, I published the exact coordinates in Tokyo where the breach would occur. I was off by less than 200 meters. I predicted the specific types of creatures that would emerge. I warned about the government containment failure. I don't monetize my content. I don't sell merchandise. I've been offered book deals and turned them down. This isn't about fame or money for me. It's about the truth. It's about saving lives. I've got nothing to gain from being right about this. In fact, my life would be much easier if I were wrong. I'd love to be wrong about what's coming.
What would it take to fix this? Is there a solution?
The CERN scientists are working on one, a quantum gravity pulse that might seal the breaches, but they're weeks away from implementation, and we don't have weeks. The breaches are growing exponentially. By my calculations, we'll see major breaches in at least 3 more cities within the next 72 hours. After that, it becomes a cascade failure. The barriers between dimensions will collapse entirely.
That's pretty bleak, man. Are you saying there's no hope?
Hope and preparation aren't mutually exclusive. I'm hopeful the scientists can fix this. I'm hopeful governments will drop the secrecy and start actually protecting people. But I'm preparing as if they won't, because that's the responsible thing to do. This isn't about doom and gloom. It's about facing reality as it is, not as we wish it were. The dinosaurs ruled this planet for 165 million years. We've had it for about 12,000. They might be coming to take it back.
We've got listeners sending in thousands of questions. Here's one that keeps coming up. If the government knows this is happening, why aren't they evacuating cities? Why the cover-up?
Mass evacuation of major cities would crash the global economy overnight. We're talking about the displacement of hundreds of millions of people. Where would they go? Who would feed them? The systems don't exist to handle that scale of movement. So instead, they're using the only tool they have, incrementalism. Contain each breach as it happens. Evacuate only when absolutely necessary. Maintain the narrative of isolated incidents as long as possible. They're trying to prevent panic while they work on a solution. I understand the reasoning, but it's a gamble with millions of lives. People deserve to know what's really happening so they can make their own choices.
Roland, we've been going for over an hour. And honestly, this is probably the most important conversation I've had on this show. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners?
Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Don't wait for official permission to protect yourself and your family. The next 72 hours are critical. If we make it through without another major breach, maybe we've got a chance. But if we see what I'm expecting to see, it's going to be a different world very soon. The dinosaurs didn't see the asteroid coming. We've got a small advantage. We can see our extinction event unfolding in real time. The question is whether we'll do anything with that information.
Roland Tembo, thank you for your time today. For our listeners, we'll be going live again in 24 hours with updates. And listen, I don't usually do this, but given what we've discussed today, I want to say something personal. Take care of each other. Whatever's happening, whatever's coming, our humanity is what matters most. Don't lose that, no matter what. This is Owen Grady. We'll talk again tomorrow if there is a tomorrow. Peace.
Breaking news. We're continuing our coverage of the Tokyo disaster. The death toll in Tokyo has now risen to over 3,000, with thousands more injured or missing. Japanese authorities continue their efforts to contain the creatures, but many have moved into the surrounding suburbs. We've been on the air for nearly 27 hours straight as this crisis unfolds. I'm being told that another incident is occurring. Standing by in Mumbai, we're going to our correspondent Melanie Daniels, who is on the ground there. Melanie, what's happening?
Alan, it's happening again, just like Tokyo. The same kind of shimmer appeared in the middle of a market district about 10 minutes ago. It's growing larger by the second. The military is already here. They must have been on standby after Tokyo. People are running, trying to evacuate, but the streets are packed. The shimmer is expanding faster than in Tokyo. It's already the size of a small building. Something's coming through. It's much bigger than what we saw in Japan. It's some kind of, it looks like a Tyrannosaurus. It's enormous, at least 2 stories tall. The military is firing, but the bullets aren't stopping it. There are smaller ones coming through now, too. More of the Tyrannosaurs are coming through the portal, at least 20 more. They're using heavier weapons now. Tanks. The creature it just picked up a car and...
Melanie, are you there? We appear to have lost contact with our reporter in Mumbai. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing what appears to be a second breach event, this time in Mumbai, India. Just like in Tokyo, prehistoric creatures have emerged from some kind of portal. We're working to re-establish contact with our team on the ground. I'm being told we have access to some leaked footage from a military briefing that took place 2 hours ago. We're going to play that for you now.
The Tokyo specimens match no known species, but most closely resemble dromaeosaurids from the late Cretaceous period. They appear to be actual living dinosaurs, not some kind of engineered bioweapon. Tissue samples confirm this. The portal they emerged from generated radiation signatures similar to those recorded at CERN last week, but exponentially more powerful.
We need answers from officials. Joining us now via satellite is Tim Malcolm from the Department of Defense. Mr. Malcolm, we now have 2 cities under attack by what appear to be living dinosaurs emerging from portals. The public deserves to know what's happening.
Thank you for having me, Alan. We are coordinating an international response to these events. I can confirm that we are treating the Mumbai incident as related to what occurred in Tokyo. The President has authorized full military deployment to assist our allies. We are establishing containment zones and evacuation corridors.
Mr. Malcolm, the footage we just aired suggests a direct connection to the CERN experiment. Is that accurate?
That footage was not authorized for release. We are exploring all possibilities. I'm not prepared to speculate on the precise nature of...
With respect, people are dying. Cities are being overrun by creatures that shouldn't exist. If the government knows what caused this, the public has a right to that information.
We understand the public's concern. The President will be addressing the nation within the hour. What I can tell you is that scientists are working around the clock to understand these events and prevent further occurrences. I'm afraid that's all I can say at this time.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Malcolm. We're going to try to speak with someone from CERN. I'm told Dr. Ian Murphy is joining us remotely. Dr. Murphy, you were one of the lead scientists on the Quantum Bridge project. What can you tell us about these events?
The experiment created microfractures in space-time. We couldn't have known the fabric of reality itself would tear. When we created the microscopic wormhole last week, we thought it was stable, contained, but it appears we punctured something fundamental, like a tiny hole in a dam that eventually gives way. The bridges forming now are not controlled. Their tear is in reality itself, and they appear to be connecting to Earth's distant past.
Can they be closed? Can we stop this from happening again?
We're trying to understand how the universe doesn't give up its secrets easily. My team is working with physicists around the world to...
We seem to have lost Dr. Murphy. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing is unprecedented in human history. Portals are opening to Earth's prehistoric past, and deadly creatures are emerging into our modern world. The first breach occurred in Tokyo just over 24 hours ago. The second, just moments ago in Mumbai. We're going to stay with this story. The President is expected to address the nation shortly. But I want to be clear with our viewers, what we're seeing is real. The world as we knew it is changing before our eyes. This is Alan Sattler, and we'll continue our coverage after this brief break. We're taking you now to the White House Situation Room, where the President is about to address the nation regarding the crisis.
The President of the United States, speaking from the White House Situation Room.
My fellow Americans, okay, so this is bad. I'm not going to lie to you. This is probably the worst thing since the Death Star blew up Alderaan, except this is real. As you've seen on your TVs and phones, 2 major cities are now dealing with creatures from Earth's distant past. Dinosaurs, real, living, breathing dinosaurs. They've come through these tears in reality, these portals. We don't fully understand what we're dealing with. The scientists, great people, very smart, they're working on it. They believe the CERN experiment last week damaged something in space-time, like poking a hole in a balloon. At first the hole was tiny, but now it's getting bigger, and these creatures are coming through. I am declaring a national emergency, effective immediately. I'm authorizing the military, our tremendous military, the best in the world, to use whatever force is necessary to protect American lives if these breaches occur on U.S. soil. We're working with our allies in Japan and India to contain the situation there. The death toll, it's high, too high, and we're preparing for the possibility of more breaches. Think of it like when the aliens invaded an Independence Day. Remember that? Will Smith punched one right in the face. Well, we're going to do that. We're going to punch back. America always punches back. But these creatures aren't from outer space. They're from our own past. And they're tough, really tough. Here's what we need you to do. First, stay calm. Some people are saying we should panic. Wrong. We don't panic. Americans don't panic. Second, be prepared. Have an emergency kit ready. Water, food, medicine. Know your evacuation routes. If a breach appears in your area, follow instructions from local authorities immediately. Third, and this is important, if you see one of these creatures, don't try to take a selfie with it. Don't try to pet it. Don't try to shoot it yourself. These aren't like the movies. These things will kill you. They're fast, they're strong, and they're hungry. I've directed FEMA and the Department of Defense to prepare for possible breaches on American soil. We've got teams ready to respond, the best teams, the most prepared teams. We will get through this. We must, because we're America, and Americans always win in the end. Always. I'm told I need to get to a secure location now. God bless America. Stay safe. We'll update you as we know more.
The President there, addressing the nation from the White House Situation Room rather than the traditional Oval Office, a sign of just how serious this crisis has become. The key points: a national emergency has been declared. Military forces have been authorized to respond with full force, and Americans are being urged to prepare emergency supplies and evacuation plans. We'll continue our coverage as events unfold. This is Alan Sattler reporting. Good evening. It's been 3 weeks since the first breach in Tokyo. In that time, 14 additional fractures have opened in major cities worldwide. The global death toll now stands at approximately 14,000, with tens of thousands more injured or missing. Military forces have established containment zones around each breach location, but their effectiveness has been limited. 5 cities remain under full evacuation orders: Tokyo, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Cairo, and most recently, Seattle. We're receiving new satellite imagery that I'm told is concerning. Let's take a look at that now. What you're seeing is the Amazon rainforest, specifically the area surrounding the Sao Paulo breach. According to NASA, this vegetation is unlike anything in our modern ecosystem. It's spreading at a rate of approximately 7 miles per day. Joining me now from a research station near the Amazon breach zone is Ellie Grant. Ellie, what can you tell us about what you're seeing there?
Thanks, Alan. I'm standing about 3 miles from the outer perimeter of what scientists are calling the overlap zone. This is where our modern ecosystem is being replaced by prehistoric plant life. The air here smells different, heavier, almost sweet. Our equipment is showing oxygen readings 5% higher than normal. Scientists don't know what this means for human physiology yet, but they're concerned about potential long-term effects. The plants you're seeing behind me weren't here 2 days ago. They're growing at rates that defy everything we know about modern botany. Some of these ferns are increasing in size by several feet per day. But it's not just plants. I want to show you something we recorded this morning. Those are dinosaurs. Enormous herbivores moving in herds through the new growth. That's not supposed to exist. None of this should exist, but it does now, and it's spreading. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you, Ellie. Stay safe out there. To help us understand what we're seeing, I'm joined by paleontologist Dr. John Hammond. Dr. Hammond, can you identify the creatures in this footage?
That's a ceratopsian, similar to Triceratops horridus, but with subtle anatomical differences from any species we've documented in the fossil record. They appear to be moving in family groups, adults protecting juveniles in the center of the herd. What's fascinating is that they're following migration patterns. Just like they did 70 million years ago, they're not confused by our modern world. They're behaving as if this is their natural habitat, because to them it is.
There have been reports that military efforts to eliminate these creatures have been largely unsuccessful. Why is that?
Our weapons are effective, but the sheer size and number of these creatures presents challenges. The larger specimens weigh upwards of 10 tons. It takes coordinated, sustained fire to bring them down, and for every one we eliminate, more keep coming through the breaches. Plus, there's a tactical problem. These aren't modern animals with familiar behavior patterns. The predators are faster than anything our military trained for. They attack in ways we don't anticipate. And a T-Rex has bite force that can crush vehicle armor, not because it has supernatural strength, but because that's what these apex predators evolved to do, crush bone.
What about more aggressive military action? Has the military considered bombing the breach sites themselves, using conventional or even nuclear weapons to close the fractures?
That's been discussed at the highest levels, but the physicists have made it clear that it would be catastrophic. The breaches aren't physical objects you can destroy with explosives. They're tears in space-time itself. Introducing massive energy, especially from nuclear weapons, near an active breach would be like throwing gasoline on a fire. The energy release could destabilize the fracture further, potentially causing it to expand exponentially. We could turn a breach the size of a bus into one that swallows entire city blocks. And there's another concern. The fractures appear to be interconnected at the quantum level. Collapsing one through violent means might trigger a cascade effect, tearing open new breaches at random locations around the globe. We could make the situation dramatically worse.
So conventional military response is limited to containment and elimination of individual creatures?
Exactly. But there's a more fundamental problem. We're not just dealing with animals crossing over. The breaches are merging ecosystems, the prehistoric plants, insects, even microorganisms are establishing themselves. If breeding populations establish, we can't put this back in the box, ever. But there's a more fundamental problem. We're not just dealing with animals crossing over. The breaches are merging ecosystems. The prehistoric plants, insects, even microorganisms are establishing themselves. If breeding populations establish, we can't put this back in the box. Ever.
Is there any hope of containing this?
Containment was possible in the first 48 hours. Now, we're looking at adaptation strategies, learning to live alongside these creatures. The alternative is possible. Extinction, humanity fighting a war. We simply cannot win against an ecosystem that dominated this planet for millions of years. If we cannot stop these fractures, we're looking at a future where humans are no longer the dominant species on Earth. The sheer numbers and evolutionary advantages these prehistoric creatures have in certain environments means they could quickly outnumber us. We'd be pushed to the margins of our own planet.
Thank you, Dr. Hammond. We also have Dr. Ian Murphy from CERN joining us again. Dr. Murphy, what's the latest on understanding these breaches?
The fractures aren't just portals. They're merging ecosystems. We're watching two periods of Earth's history collide, the Cretaceous and the Anthropocene, existing simultaneously. What's happening with the plant life Miss Grant showed is just the beginning. Prehistoric vegetation is overwhelming modern flora because it evolved in an environment with higher oxygen, more carbon dioxide, different soil chemistry. It's simply more efficient in many ways than our modern plants. Billions of years of evolution undone in weeks. It's as if the planet is remembering what it once was and perhaps preferring it.
Is there any way to close these fractures?
We're trying. But the more breaches that open, the more the fabric of space-time weakens. It's like a piece of cloth tearing each new hole makes the others worse. And we don't have the technology to repair it. We barely understand what's happening.
Thank you, Dr. Murphy. A statement was released by the government today regarding food supplies. I'll read it verbatim. Rationing procedures may become necessary in the coming weeks. Citizens should prepare accordingly, but avoid hoarding essential items. These scenes from markets across the country show the reality many are facing. With transportation networks disrupted and farmland increasingly affected by breach zones, food distribution has become a significant challenge. We'll continue to bring you updates as this crisis evolves. For now, follow all government advisories regarding evacuation zones and emergency preparedness. This is Alan Sattler. Stay safe, stay informed.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Unfiltered Reality. I'm your host, Owen Grady. Those of you who've been with me for a while know I usually start with some jokes, maybe some stories from the week. But look, today's different. Today we need to talk about what's happening. All right, let me break this down for you. What we actually know versus what the officials are telling us. Because there's a gap there, a pretty big one. So officials keep saying containment zones, like this is something they can control, right? Like they've got this under control. But look, I've got CERN's leaked data right here. The actual numbers from their monitoring stations, the fractures are multiplying and merging. 23% of the Amazon rainforest is now something else entirely. That's not containment, man. That's conquest. That's one ecosystem overtaking another. And no one's talking about the oxygen levels. The reporters mention it in passing, but do you understand what higher oxygen means? It means fires burn hotter. It means different weather patterns. It means changes to our blood chemistry, our brain function, over time. Food production down 40% globally in 1 month. The official statements are all about disruptions in the supply chain and temporary shortages. That's not what's happening. What's happening is the farms are being taken over. The plants our food grows on are being replaced by plants that haven't existed in 70 million years. And here's what nobody, not the scientists, not the governments, nobody's talking about what happens when these things start migrating. Because that's what animals do. The herbivores follow food sources. The predators follow the herbivores. The T-Rex that took out half of Mumbai, what happens when it gets hungry and the local food supply is gone? Because they don't have an answer. They don't know. I've been doing this show for 8 years. I've covered wars, pandemics, political upheavals, but this is different. We're in real trouble. I think we all feel that now, deep down. The question becomes, what do we actually do about it? because the containment isn't working. The military response isn't working. The scientific approach isn't working. And honestly, I don't have an answer either. Nobody does. Maybe next week I'll have more insights, more information. Maybe the situation will stabilize, but I'm not counting on it. And I don't think you should either. Stay safe out there, take care of each other, and prepare for whatever comes next. This is Owen Grady, signing off.
Good evening from our temporary broadcast facility. We evacuated our main studio in Manhattan yesterday after a breach opened 3 miles away in Central Park. Military forces have established a perimeter, but the situation remains fluid. It's been 7 weeks since the first breach in Tokyo. In that time, fractures have appeared on every continent except Antarctica. Tonight we focus on the growing global transportation crisis as air and sea travel become increasingly perilous. This is a live view of global air traffic. As you can see, it's down 94% from normal levels. The FAA and international aviation authorities have grounded all commercial flights indefinitely following a series of tragic incidents. Ellie Grant is at the site of yesterday's crash outside Denver. Ellie.
Thanks, Alan. I'm at the crash site of Continental Airlines Flight 227, which went down during its approach to Denver International Airport yesterday afternoon. All 142 passengers and crew were killed. Witnesses report the Boeing 737 was struck by what they describe as flying creatures during its final approach. The pilots radioed a mayday about an impact to the left engine before losing control. Here is part of the mayday recording.
They came out of nowhere. God, they came out of nowhere. I've never seen anything flying, things massive, maybe a dozen of them. Wings like nothing I've ever seen. 20, 30 feet across. They hit us like missiles. We're losing altitude. One of them went straight into the left engine, just tore right through it. The whole thing exploded, fire everywhere. We're trying to maintain control, but another one just hit the windscreen, cracked the glass, blood everywhere. We're going down, we're going down. Mayday, mayday, this is Flight 447. We are going down.
Similar incidents have been reported at airports worldwide. Military forces have been deployed to major airports, but they're struggling to secure such vast areas of airspace. The pilots were heroes, Alan. They managed to avoid crashing into a suburban area, directing the failing aircraft toward open land. Without their actions, the death toll would have been much higher. Back to you.
Thank you, Ellie. Sea travel has been similarly devastated. We have rare testimony from a survivor of last week's container ship attack off the coast of South Africa. Billy Brennan was one of only 7 crew members rescued. Here is an excerpt from an interview he had with our affiliate station.
Something came from below. Bigger than the ship, like a serpent, but with flippers. It crushed the hull like it was made of paper. The ship broke in half, sank in minutes. We didn't have a chance. We never had a chance. 42 of my friends, gone. The oceans aren't ours anymore. Stay off the water, all of it. They're out there, waiting.
That attack was one of 17 confirmed maritime incidents this week alone. Global shipping has effectively stopped. Joining me to discuss the economic implications is supply chain expert Sarah Harding. Dr. Harding, how severe is this disruption?
We're looking at a total systemic collapse within 90 days, maybe less. Global commerce relies on the constant movement of goods across oceans. Nearly 90% of everything we consume travels by sea at some point. With ports closed and ships docked, we're seeing cascading failures throughout the supply chain. Factories closing due to lack of components. Medical supplies not reaching hospitals, fuel shortages, food system disruption. The modern world operates on a just-in-time delivery model. We don't stockpile essential goods anymore. Most cities have less than a week's worth of food without constant resupply, and that's under normal circumstances.
What about alternative transportation methods? Land routes?
Rail and road networks are increasingly compromised as overlap zones expand. Major highways and rail lines now pass directly through territories where these creatures have established themselves. Convoy losses are mounting. We've lost approximately 60% of our transportation infrastructure globally, and that percentage is growing daily.
Thank you, Dr. Harding. Communications infrastructure is also under increasing strain. Satellite failures, attributed to collisions with flying reptiles at high altitudes, have created dark zones where no signals can penetrate. This map shows regions where internet and cellular service have been completely lost. As you can see, large areas of the globe are now completely dark to us. The remaining networks are fragmented and unreliable. We have an audio statement from Tim Malcolm at the Department of Defense regarding communication restoration efforts.
We're working diligently to restore communications infrastructure. Military and emergency channels remain operational. Civilian networks will be prioritized based on critical needs. We ask for patience as we address these unprecedented challenges.
Tomorrow we'll examine the growing food crisis as agricultural regions worldwide fall to the spreading overlap zones. For those in safe zones, authorities recommend conserving food, water, and fuel as supply chains continue to deteriorate. This is Alan Sattler. Stay vigilant, stay informed.
This is not a test. The emergency alert system has been activated at the request of the United States Department of Homeland Security. Residents of the following counties are ordered to evacuate immediately: Kings County, New York; Queens County, New York; Richmond County, New York; New York County, New York; Bronx County, New York; Westchester County, New York; Nassau County, New York; Bergen County, New Jersey; Hudson County, New Jersey; Essex County, New Jersey; Union County, New Jersey; Middlesex County, New Jersey. Proceed to designated evacuation routes immediately. Do not delay. Do not attempt to use vehicles not designated for evacuation. Public transportation will be provided at emergency rally points marked on evacuation maps. This is not a test. The emergency alert system has been activated at the request of the United States Coast Guard. All maritime travel along the eastern seaboard is suspended indefinitely. All vessels currently at sea should proceed to the nearest port or designated safe harbor. Do not approach any unidentified objects in the water. Report all unusual marine activity to Coast Guard channels immediately. Port authorities have been instructed to deny departure clearance to all civilian vessels until further notice. This is not a test. The emergency alert system has been activated at the request of the Federal Aviation Administration. Civilian aircraft are prohibited from flying below 15,000 feet within the continental United States, effective immediately. All non-essential air travel is suspended. Military escort is required for all authorized flights. Unescorted aircraft will be considered hostile and may be engaged by defensive measures. Aircraft encountering any unidentified flying objects must immediately report to air traffic control and divert to the nearest emergency landing site. This is not a test. The emergency alert system has been activated at the request of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Shelter-in-place orders remain in effect for Cook County, Illinois; Los Angeles County, California; San Francisco County, California; King County, Washington; Suffolk County, Massachusetts; Harris County, Texas; Fulton County, Georgia; Miami-Dade County, Florida. Do not attempt to evacuate these areas without explicit direction from authorities. Remain indoors. Seal all windows and doors. Conserve food, water, and medical supplies. Emergency services are severely limited. This is not a test. The emergency alert system has been activated at the request of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This message will repeat every hour.
Breaking news this evening as we report on the catastrophic situation unfolding in New York City. The metropolitan area is under mandatory evacuation after multiple breaches opened across Manhattan earlier today. The mayor declared a state of emergency 4 hours ago as prehistoric creatures poured into the city's streets and subways. Initial reports indicate at least 7 separate breach points, including Grand Central Terminal, Central Park, Times Square, and the financial district. The scale of this incursion far exceeds previous urban breaches, with estimates of hundreds of prehistoric creatures now loose in America's largest city. We go now to our correspondent Thomas Wright, who is embedded with a National Guard unit on the Manhattan Bridge. Thomas, what's the situation there?
Alan, I'm standing on the Manhattan Bridge where thousands of people are attempting to evacuate on foot. Vehicle traffic stopped moving hours ago after abandoned cars blocked the lanes. The bridge itself is shaking from the mass of humanity trying to escape. From this vantage point, I can see multiple fires burning throughout lower Manhattan. The skyline that has defined America for generations is now partially obscured by smoke. Military helicopters are attempting evacuation from rooftops, but their efforts are complicated by flying reptiles that have established aerial dominance over parts of the city. The sound is unlike anything I've ever experienced, a mixture of sirens, screams, and the calls of creatures that haven't been heard on this continent for 65 million years. The National Guard unit I'm with has established a defensive position on the Brooklyn side of the bridge. They're focusing on getting civilians across while maintaining a perimeter against any creatures that might attempt to cross. I spoke with Colonel Rivera moments ago. He described the military response as completely overwhelmed by both the number of creatures and the pace at which they're spreading through the city's infrastructure. Most concerning is that the subways have become thoroughfares for the smaller, faster predators. They're emerging from subway entrances miles from the original breach points, effectively bypassing defensive lines that had been hastily established. The death toll is impossible to calculate at this point. Officials are using the word unprecedented in their internal communications.
Thomas, what's the status of the evacuation? How many people have made it out?
The city had a daytime population of approximately 4 million people. Estimates suggest fewer than 1 million have been successfully evacuated so far. The bridges and tunnels connecting Manhattan to the outer boroughs became choke points almost immediately. Many people are attempting to leave by water. I can see hundreds of boats of all sizes, from personal watercraft to commercial ferries, packed beyond capacity. But even the waterways aren't safe. Reports of marine reptiles capsizing smaller vessels have been confirmed by Coast Guard units in the harbor. The most haunting sight, Alan, is watching prehistoric flying creatures circling the Empire State Building and perching on the Chrysler Building. These iconic structures have become roosts for animals that last existed when mammals were no larger than rodents. Wait, something's happening on the bridge. I can hear screaming from the Manhattan side. The crowd is surging forward. The National Guard is trying to maintain order, but people are panicking. There's something coming across the bridge, something moving through the crowd. The soldiers are raising their weapons. They're ordering people to get down. But in this chaos, they're firing now. I can see it looks like several smaller predators, similar to the velociraptors we saw in Tokyo, running through the crowd on the bridge. They're moving incredibly fast, leaping over cars, using the infrastructure to their advantage. We need to move back. The defensive line is falling back to the Brooklyn side. Alan, I think we're witnessing the fall of New York City in real time.
Thomas, please get to safety. We'll check back with you when possible. We're now going to Dr. Ian Murphy from CERN, who has been analyzing the New York breaches. Dr. Murphy, what makes this event different from previous incursions?
The New York event represents a fundamental escalation. Previous breaches were isolated, singular events. What we're seeing in New York is multiple coordinated fractures occurring simultaneously across a concentrated geographic area. Our models didn't predict this level of deterioration for at least another month. The space-time fabric is unraveling faster than our worst-case scenarios suggested. And most concerning is that the ecosystem balance from these new breaches appears to be skewed.
Skewed? What do you mean by that?
Earlier breaches showed random ecological sampling from the Cretaceous period, a mix of predators, herbivores, and plant life. The New York breaches are bringing through a disproportionate number of predator species. The concentration of predators is simply a random outcome, but a devastating one for the city. Predators are typically more mobile and adaptable than herbivores. They're covering more ground faster, which makes them appear more numerous than they might actually be.
Are you suggesting there's something unique about the New York breaches?
Not intelligence physics. The fractures in space-time are behaving according to quantum principles we're still struggling to understand. They're forming in areas of high energy density, and modern cities, with their electrical grids and communications networks, are essentially giant energy matrices. We've detected unusual energy signatures from these fractures, wavelengths, and patterns that weren't present in earlier events. But this is because the fractures are interacting with Manhattan's unique infrastructure. It's a physical phenomenon, not a directed one.
This is profoundly disturbing, Dr. Murphy. What are the implications for other major population centers?
Based on what we've learned in the last few hours, we must assume that every major city worldwide is now at immediate risk. The fractures are no longer just randomly appearing, they're concentrating in densely populated areas. My team is detecting energy fluctuations consistent with pre-breach conditions in Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and Boston. We've alerted authorities, but given what we've witnessed in New York, I fear evacuation efforts may already be too late. The containment strategies that worked partially for isolated breaches are useless against what we're seeing now. This is no longer about cordoning off affected areas. This is about the fundamental habitability of our urban centers.
What about the research into closing these breaches? Any progress there?
We're working around the clock. The quantum gravity pulse is our most promising approach. But we're still weeks away from having the hardware assembled, and even then, the chance of success is modest. The tragedy is that we understand the mechanism now. We know exactly what went wrong with the original experiment, but stopping the cascade effect once it's begun is like trying to push water back up a waterfall. I take full responsibility for what's happening. Our team at CERN opened this door. We just never imagined it would open so wide, so quickly.
We're receiving footage now from inside Manhattan. I should warn viewers that these images are deeply disturbing. The footage shows Times Square, now unrecognizable. The iconic billboards and screens are dark or displaying static. The streets are littered with abandoned vehicles and bodies. Moving through this urban graveyard are creatures of various sizes, from small, agile predators hunting in packs to larger, solitary hunters that dwarf the abandoned vehicles they step over. Most haunting is the near absence of human presence in what was, just hours ago, one of the most densely populated places on Earth. We're also receiving reports that the Statue of Liberty has become a perching point for multiple pterosaurs. This symbol of American freedom and welcome now serves as a lookout post for creatures from Earth's distant past. Dr. Murphy, if New York has fallen, and it appears it has, what does this mean for human civilization going forward?
We are witnessing the beginning of a fundamental restructuring of Earth's dominant species. For the first time since the extinction of the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, mammals, specifically humans, are being displaced as apex organisms in major ecosystems. If we cannot seal these breaches soon, what happened in New York today will happen in every major urban center worldwide. We are looking at the collapse of the infrastructure that supports modern civilization, power grids, transportation networks, food distribution systems. Humanity won't be extinct, but we may be facing a future where we're no longer the planet's dominant life form, where we exist at the margins and the spaces between territories controlled by creatures that ruled this planet for far longer than we have. New York isn't just a city falling, it's the beginning of humanity's retreat.
We've just received word that the feed from Thomas Wright on the Manhattan Bridge has been lost. We're attempting to re-establish contact, but communications throughout the New York area are increasingly unstable. For those in the eastern seaboard region, authorities are urging immediate evacuation from all major metropolitan areas. Head to rural, elevated locations if possible. Temporary safe zones are being established in the Appalachian Highlands and other defensible areas. We'll continue broadcasting as long as possible, providing updates as this unprecedented crisis unfolds. For now, this is Alan Sattler, reporting on what may be the darkest day in American history since the nation's founding. Stay safe, stay informed, and may God help us all. We're coming to you from an undisclosed secure location. Our primary studio in Manhattan has been evacuated. New York City is now largely abandoned. It's been 3 months since the first breach. The list of major cities now completely evacuated continues to grow. Miami, New Orleans, Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, Washington, D.C., and as of yesterday, New York. This map shows the current safe zones in North America. The government has established fortified areas in regions that have, so far, remained free of breaches. Most are located in the interior of the continent, away from coastal areas where maritime predators have made shorelines uninhabitable. Refugee camps have been established to house the millions displaced. Resources are strained beyond capacity. Military forces are maintaining order, but conditions are deteriorating. The medical situation has become critical in most evacuation centers. Reports indicate widespread shortages of antibiotics, surgical equipment, and basic supplies. Infectious disease outbreaks have been reported in 12 major camps across 3 continents. Healthcare systems that were already stretched by the initial evacuations are now at breaking point. We've received footage from the Fort Collins safe zone in Colorado showing overcrowding and resource distribution challenges. Water is being rationed to 2 liters per person per day. Food supplies are limited to preserved items as fresh produce has become increasingly rare. Schools, churches, and any available structures have been converted to emergency housing. We're going now to Ellie Grant, who is embedded with a military convoy escorting civilians from the Philadelphia evacuation zone. Ellie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Alan. We're moving civilians out of... Oh, God, they're here! They came through the buildings. Military is engaging, but...
Ellie? Ellie, are you there? It appears we have lost Ellie's signal. We'll continue to bring you information as we receive it. For those in evacuation zones, follow all military instructions precisely. Do not deviate from designated routes. Do not stop for personal belongings. Your lives depend on it. Power grid failures are now cascading across continents as infrastructure maintenance becomes impossible. Europe reports 60% of its territory is now without electricity. Asia, nearly 70%. In North America, the eastern seaboard from Maine to Florida is almost entirely dark. We've lost communication with multiple regions. The following cities have gone completely silent in the past 24 hours: Berlin, Rome, Madrid, Moscow, Beijing, Delhi, Jakarta. We don't know if this is due to communications failure or something worse. The information blackout is spreading, our ability to coordinate globally compromised. Military reports from the few remaining command centers indicate that conventional weapons are proving increasingly ineffective against the larger prehistoric creatures. Armor plating on some species can withstand even armor-piercing rounds. Air support has been almost completely grounded due to flying predators targeting aircraft. The scientific community's latest assessment of the breach zones shows they're continuing to expand at an accelerating rate. Dr. Melissa Chen from what remains of the CDC has reported that prehistoric microorganisms are spreading beyond the visible breach zones, causing unknown effects on modern ecosystems. Soil and water samples from areas as far as 200 miles from the nearest known breach have shown contamination. Reports from isolated research stations indicate that some dinosaur species appear to be adapting to modern environments more rapidly than expected. Pack hunters have been observed using surprisingly sophisticated tactics, learning from failed attacks and communicating in ways we don't fully understand. For those of you receiving this broadcast, experts recommend the following survival priorities. First, seek high ground. Most of the larger predators seem to prefer valleys and plains. Second, avoid forests and dense vegetation. The smaller hunters use them for ambush. Third, travel only during daylight hours. Night movement has proven fatal in most cases. Fourth, conserve all supplies. Resupply lines are no longer reliable. What you have now may be all you'll have for the foreseeable future. Fifth, maintain noise discipline. The predators have extremely acute hearing and can detect human voices from considerable distances. Sixth, travel in groups of at least 5 when possible. Isolated individuals have a significantly lower survival rate. Seventh, establish early warning systems. Vibration detectors, tripwires, and observation posts have proven effective in providing crucial minutes of warning before attacks. I've just received word that we're experiencing transmission issues. Our broadcast range is diminishing as satellite relays fail. If you can hear my voice, know that we will continue broadcasting as long as possible. Information it's all we have left to share. A final note to those in hiding. Researchers have discovered that certain scents can mask human presence from predators. Mixtures of mud, rotting vegetation, and animal dung have been used successfully by survivors in contested zones. The stronger the smell, the better the concealment. This is Alan Sattler. If you're listening, you're not alone. Not yet.
My dear friends, I see the fear in your eyes. I hear the questions in your hearts. Many have asked me, where is God in this? Why has He allowed this to happen? I don't believe this is punishment, my friends. I believe this is consequence, not divine wrath, but the natural outcome of our choices. Genesis tells us the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. We were given stewardship. We were caretakers, and somewhere along the way, we forgot. When we unleashed the power of the atom, when we manipulated the genetic code, when we reached into the very fabric of reality itself, did we pause to consider the responsibility that came with such knowledge? Did we approach these powers with humility? These creatures aren't demons. They're not evil. They're simply alive. As we are alive, they ruled this earth for millions of years before we ever drew breath, and now they've returned. Through doorways we ourselves open. Perhaps the Lord is reminding us of a fundamental truth. This world was never ours to own. We share it. We always have. With every creature, great and small. With those that came before us. With those that may come after. Look around this room. We are gathered here, Jew and Gentile, believer and skeptic, from every walk of life. Our differences seem so small now, don't they? In the face of this great change, we recognize our common humanity. Our task now isn't to conquer, it's to survive, to humble ourselves before His creation, to remember our place in the grand tapestry of life. The book of Job reminds us, where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand who marked off its dimensions. Surely you know. We are small, my friends, so very small. And perhaps that is the lesson we were meant to learn, not through Scripture, but through experience. Let us pray together, not for victory, but for wisdom, for humility, for mercy, and for the strength to accept what we cannot change.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Vega, reporting from the BBC World Service Emergency Broadcast Centre in Manchester. We've relocated here after our London facilities were compromised. What I'm about to report represents the single worst day in recorded human history. We're witnessing simultaneous breach events across 6 continents. The scale it's beyond anything we've seen before. Let's go first to Jules Winfield in Paris. Jules, what's the situation there?
Vincent, I'm broadcasting from a rooftop in the 16th arrondissement, and Paris is falling. Multiple breaches opened across the city. The largest appeared in the Place de la Concorde. I watched it happen. The shimmer started small, maybe the size of a car. Then it just expanded. Within minutes, it was massive, easily 100 meters across. What came through I've been a journalist for 20 years, covered wars in 3 countries, but nothing prepared me for this. Thousands of them just pouring through like water from a broken dam. The smaller ones scattered immediately into the metro tunnels. The larger ones, there's one outside the Louvre right now that must be 15 meters tall. It's using the pyramid as a scratching post. The glass is just shattering. French military is trying to establish a perimeter along the Seine, but they're overwhelmed. The creatures are crossing the bridges faster than soldiers can fall back. I can see fires burning across at least 8 different districts. The Eiffel Tower is still standing, but there are flying creatures roosting on it now, dozens of them.
Thank you, Jules. Stay safe. We're going now to Mia Wallace in Sao Paulo. Mia, you're there?
I'm here, Vincent. Barely. Sao Paulo is experiencing what military officials are calling cascade breach events. We're not talking about 1 or 2 fractures anymore. We're talking about dozens. I'm in a helicopter right now, and from up here I can count at least 18 active breaches just in the metropolitan area. They're appearing in a pattern, almost like they're surrounding the city. The largest one is in Paulista Avenue. It's enormous, the size of a football field, and it's not closing. None of them are closing. Creatures are streaming through continuously. We're talking thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe. It's just this constant flow of prehistoric life pouring into our world. The herbivores are the worst, actually, not because they're attacking people, but because they're so massive and there are so many of them. They're trampling entire neighborhoods just by moving through them. Buildings are collapsing, infrastructure is failing. I'm watching right now as a herd of long-necked things walk through downtown. There must be 500 of them. The buildings are just crumbling, like they're made of cardboard.
What's the government response?
The Brazilian military has given up on containment. They're focused entirely on evacuation now, but the roads are blocked. The airports are overrun with flying reptiles. The ports, there's something in the harbour, something big. Ships are going down. I've received reports of similar events in Rio, Brasilia, Belo Horizonte. It's not just Sao Paulo, it's the entire country.
Thank you, Mia. We'll check back with you shortly. We're receiving reports of major breach events in Berlin, Moscow, Cairo, Lagos, Bangkok, Seoul, Manila, and Sydney. In each case, multiple fractures have appeared simultaneously across the metropolitan areas. Butch Coolidge is in Berlin. Butch, what can you tell us?
Vincent, the situation here is chaos, pure chaos. Germany hasn't seen destruction like this since World War II.
The Brandenburg Gate was the first breach point. Since then, we've counted at least 23 separate fractures throughout the city.
I watched a tank battalion engage a group of large predators near Alexanderplatz. The tanks did damage, sure, but for everyone they brought down, 3 more came through the breach. Eventually, they just ran out of ammunition, had to fall back. The Autobahn system is completely jammed, millions trying to evacuate, but the breaches keep appearing ahead of them. People are abandoning their cars and running, just running.
What about other European cities?
We're hearing similar reports from across the continent. Madrid has 7 confirmed breaches, Rome 9, Amsterdam 5, Stockholm 3. Even smaller cities are being hit. Frankfurt, Hamburg, Lyon, Barcelona.
Stay safe, Butch. Keep reporting as long as you can. We have Marcellus Wallace on the line from Johannesburg. Marcellus, what's happening in South Africa?
Vincent, Africa is being hit hardest. The entire continent is experiencing massive breach activity. Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Lagos, Nairobi, Addis Ababa, Kinshasa, all of them under simultaneous attack. What makes it worse here is the infrastructure. We don't have the resources other continents have, our emergency response systems are already strained, and now this. The creatures that are coming through here, they're different. Larger, more aggressive, maybe because Africa's climate is closer to what they remember. I don't know. But they're thriving here. I'm at an evacuation centre outside Johannesburg. We have maybe 30,000 people here. No food, no water, no medicine. The supply convoys can't get through anymore.
God help you all. Thank you, Marcellus. We're now going to Jackie Brown in Sydney. Jackie, what's the latest from Australia?
It's bad, Vincent. Really bad. Sydney Harbour is completely unusable. There are marine reptiles the size of submarines in there now. The Opera House, I watched one of them use it as a haul-out point. Just climbed right up onto it. The whole structure collapsed. Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, all experiencing multiple breaches. The government is trying to establish safe zones in the outback, but even there we're seeing fractures appear. What I do know is that the continent is being carved up. The coasts belong to the marine creatures, the forests to the land predators, the open spaces to the massive herbivores. We're being pushed into smaller and smaller areas.
Thank you, Jackie. Stay in touch as long as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing is a global collapse. Every major population centre on Earth is under attack or has been abandoned. The creatures from Earth's distant past have established themselves across the globe. They are not invaders. They are the original inhabitants, returned. We will continue broadcasting as long as we're able, but communications infrastructure is failing rapidly. This is Vincent Vega for the BBC World Service. Stay safe and stay strong.
If you're receiving this broadcast, you're among the fortunate few with working communications. It's been 4 months since the first breach. In that time, we've witnessed the collapse of civilization as we knew it. 217 confirmed breaches have occurred worldwide. The overlap zones now cover approximately 40% of Earth's land surface. The creatures from our prehistoric past continue to spread, adapt, and multiply. Current estimates suggest between 40 and 50 million prehistoric creatures now inhabit our planet. That number continues to grow as the breaches remain open and new breeding populations establish themselves in every major ecosystem. Across the remaining safe zones, humanity has consolidated into fortified settlements. Most major urban centers have been abandoned completely. Small towns in defensible locations have become the new centers of human activity. Places with natural barriers, mountains, rivers, cliffs, offer the best protection from the larger predators. Food production has been reduced to subsistence farming in protected enclaves. Fish farming in isolated lakes and reservoirs has become critical to protein supply. Agricultural scientists are working to develop faster-growing crop varieties to maximize yield in the limited safe areas we still control. But tonight, for the first time in months, I bring you a glimmer of hope. A pre-recorded message from Dr. Ian Murphy and the surviving CERN research team has been transmitted to all remaining broadcast networks. We're going to play that for you now.
The fractures in space-time continue to multiply. The membrane between our era and the Cretaceous period has become porous. Each new breach weakens the fabric further. Our models project total collapse within 18 months, at which point the two time periods would merge completely. We have one option remaining. A synchronized quantum gravity pulse transmitted on inverted phase frequencies. By generating a massive gravitational wave with reverse polarity to the original breach signature, we can theoretically collapse the fractures at the quantum level. The pulse will need to reach every breach point simultaneously, creating a resonance cascade that forces the space-time tiers to seal from the inside out. The theory is sound. We've mapped the exact frequency signatures of each fracture, but the engineering is challenging. We need to generate more energy than the original experiment, coordinate the timing to within nanoseconds, and maintain field coherence across the entire planet. We've been working from a hardened facility beneath the Swiss Alps. The equipment we've salvaged from the original CERN campus, combined with components from physics labs worldwide, should be sufficient to generate the required field strength. The risk is significant. A 34% probability of catastrophic failure. If the pulse resonates incorrectly, it could accelerate the collapse rather than reversing it. But without action, the pale blue dot, as I once called our home, may soon be something else entirely. World leaders have authorized the attempt. We'll initiate the pulse at 0800 GMT 3 days from now. All electronic equipment should be powered down 1 hour before the pulse to prevent damage. Essential systems must be hardened against electromagnetic interference. Whatever happens, I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry we didn't understand what we were doing. We gazed too long into the cosmos, and something gazed back.
That message was recorded 3 days ago. The attempt begins in 16 hours. Governments around the world have issued statements supporting the initiative. I'll read a few excerpts. From the U.S. President, "This represents our best and perhaps final hope. All resources have been dedicated to supporting the CERN team. Pray for their success." From the European Union, we stand united behind our scientists. Their courage may save what remains of humanity. From the Chinese Premier, the future of our species now depends on this single moment. We have faith in the team at CERN. From the African Coalition, we will ensure all power generation in our territory is diverted to support this attempt. May our combined efforts bring an end to this nightmare. From the Pacific Alliance, our island nations have suffered tremendously. We place our hope in this final endeavor to halt the spread of these prehistoric invaders. Reports from the remaining safe zones show people gathering in churches, temples, and public spaces, praying, meditating, or simply being together in what might be humanity's final hours. We've received images from safe zones around the world: Montreal, Mexico City, Johannesburg, Stockholm, Perth, all showing similar scenes: people holding vigils, sharing meals, comforting children, the best and most human aspects of our species on display in what could be our darkest moment. This is either our last day or our first day of recovery. There is no middle ground. Monitoring stations worldwide are reporting increased breach activity in the hours leading up to the pulse. It's as if the fractures are responding to the energy buildup at the CERN facility. Military forces are on high alert for new incursions as the attempt approaches. We will remain on air until the pulse is initiated. 16 hours from now, we'll either witness the beginning of our salvation or the acceleration of our extinction. The fate of humanity hangs on this single moment. I'm joined now by several experts to discuss what we might expect if the pulse is successful. Dr. Rebecca Ferguson is a physicist who worked with the CERN team until last month.
If the pulse works as designed, it should seal the breaches almost instantly. Think of it like repairing a torn fabric. The threads are rejoined, the hole is closed. The creatures that have already come through would remain, but no new ones would emerge.
And if it fails?
The most likely negative outcome is acceleration of the collapse. Instead of 18 months until complete merger, we might see it happen in weeks, or days, or hours.
What can people do to prepare for either outcome?
For protection against the pulse itself, people should power down all electronics. The electromagnetic surge will likely destroy unshielded devices. Stay away from large metal structures and power lines. If possible, shelter in basements or other underground spaces. If the pulse fails, there's little anyone can do beyond what they've already done. Stay in secure locations, gather what supplies you can, and be with those you care about.
Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. I'm also speaking with General James Forster, one of the coordinators of the global military response.
All remaining military assets have been positioned to respond to potential outcomes. If the pulse is successful, we'll focus on recovery and stabilization of safe zones. If it fails, we have contingency plans for evacuating as many civilians as possible to the most defensible positions. I want to emphasize that despite all we've lost, humanity has shown remarkable resilience. Military and civilian cooperation has never been stronger. Ancient rivalries have been set aside. We're fighting together against a common threat.
Is there any way to predict which areas might be most affected if the pulse fails?
Our scientists believe that areas near existing breaches would be the first to experience accelerated collapse. Anyone within 100 miles of a known breach site should be prepared to evacuate immediately if the attempt fails.
Thank you for your insights, General. We're receiving reports that electromagnetic disturbances have already begun as the CERN team powers up their equipment. Communications may become erratic in the coming hours. If our broadcast cuts out, know that we'll return as soon as possible. To all those listening from safe zones, bunkers, and hidden shelters around the world, you are not forgotten. If humanity survives this night, we will rebuild, different, changed, but still human. 15 hours, 47 minutes until humanity's final gambit. Stay with us.
This is Roland Tembo coming to you from somewhere, location security and all that. Can't be too careful anymore. Surprised I still have enough power and signal to broadcast, but I've got my ways, always have. You've all heard the news by now. CERN's big plan, their solution, their last-ditch effort to save us all. So now they're going to do another experiment? The first one caused this. These are the same people who broke reality in the first place, and now they want us to trust them to fix it? I've obtained internal memos from what's left of CERN, calculations, risk assessments, things they're not telling you on the official channels. 34% chance of failure. That's what they're admitting to. The actual numbers are higher, way higher. Look at this risk matrix. They've manipulated the variables to make it seem safer than it is. They don't know what they're doing. They're guessing with our lives. This quantum gravity pulse hasn't been tested. It can't be tested. It's theoretical, pure theory. What if this makes it worse? What if this opens more fractures? Has anyone thought of that? Of course they have. It's right here in their own documents. Cascading resonance failure potential is what they're calling it. In normal human language, that means we might tear reality completely apart. I've been screaming about this for months. Nobody listened. Nobody. I warned you about the first experiment. I showed you the patterns when the breaches started. I proved the connection. And now we're supposed to trust the same people who broke the world to fix it with an even bigger, more dangerous experiment. 34% failure rate? That means 1 in 3 chance we all die instantly. I don't know what to tell you anymore. I've been fighting this fight for so long, warning people, gathering evidence, and for what? We're here anyway, at the end. My sister in Denver, I haven't heard from her in weeks. My parents in Florida, the whole coast is gone now. Stock up, run. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. If this pulse fails, that's it, game over. I always thought if I could just make people see the truth, if I could just wake enough people up, we could stop this, we could save ourselves. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe some things can't be stopped once they're set in motion. Good luck to all of us. God help us, because nobody else can.
"30 seconds until activation of the quantum gravity pulse. For those just joining our broadcast, the CERN team is attempting to seal the breaches between our time and the prehistoric era. Power grids worldwide have been shut down to divert all available energy to the CERN facility. Our broadcast continues on emergency generators only. This represents humanity's last coordinated effort. Every remaining nation, every surviving government has come together for this single moment. If the pulse succeeds, no new creatures can emerge. The invasion stops here. If it fails, we may not get another chance. All we can do now is wait. Stand by. We're receiving confirmation. The pulse was successful. Seismic monitors report activity of 4.2 magnitude centered on Geneva, consistent with the predicted energy discharge. These images are coming to us from the few remaining functional satellites. You can see a global aurora phenomenon, ribbons of light encircling the planet. This is the visible manifestation of the quantum pulse as it propagates through our atmosphere. Monitoring stations positioned near known breach sites are reporting dramatic energy fluctuations. The distinctive shimmer effect that characterized the fractures is diminishing. Early readings suggest the breach signatures are collapsing exactly as theorized. The CERN team is reporting that energy readings at all known breach sites have stabilized. All fractures have closed. Repeat, all fractures are closed. They did it. They actually did it. No new creatures can emerge. These scenes are coming in from refugee camps and safe zones around the world. People celebrating, embracing, weeping with relief. In the Johannesburg safe zone, people have taken to the streets singing. In what remains of Montreal, church bells are ringing for the first time in months. From the Australian outback settlements to the mountain refuges of Nepal, humanity is united in a moment of collective hope. For the first time in 5 months, we have hope. We'll continue our coverage after this brief moment. For now, let us simply acknowledge what the CERN team has accomplished. Against impossible odds, they've closed the doorway to our past. The breaches are sealed. No new creatures will emerge. This is a victory. Perhaps not the victory we hoped for, but a victory nonetheless. Stay with us. We'll have more on what this means for humanity's future after this break. This is Alan Sattler. On this day, we stop the bleeding. Welcome back to our continuing coverage. The celebration in safe zones around the world continues as humanity processes the news that the breaches have been sealed. But as the initial euphoria begins to fade, we're receiving new data that paints a sobering picture of what comes next. The fractures may be closed, but the consequences of their opening remain. Dr. Eliza Murphy from the CERN team has transmitted preliminary assessments to all remaining broadcast stations. What she sent us is difficult to process. Let me be clear with our audience. The pulse worked, the breaches are sealed, but the world we knew is not coming back. The creatures that came through, they're still here, all of them. Closing the fractures did not remove the prehistoric life forms that had already emerged into our time. These images show the current extent of what scientists are calling overlap zones, regions where prehistoric ecosystems have become established in our modern world. The fractures are closed, but the overlap zones remain. Preliminary mapping shows that the prehistoric intrusion has fundamentally altered landscapes across every continent. Familiar coastlines have been transformed by the feeding habits of massive marine reptiles. Forests have been devastated by herds of sauropods. Urban centers have become nesting grounds for pterosaurs. Remote sensing data is revealing the full extent of the transformation. The oxygen content in overlap zones is measurably higher than in human-controlled regions. Plant growth rates have accelerated dramatically. Ferns and cycads that hadn't flourished on Earth for millions of years are rapidly displacing modern vegetation. Joining us via satellite link is Dr. Eliza Murphy, sister of the late Dr. Ian Murphy, who was killed by an electrical feedback surge during the pulse experiment. He stayed at his station to ensure the sequence completed. Dr. Eliza Murphy is now lead scientist at what remains of the CERN research team.
The creatures number in the tens of millions. Conservative estimates suggest 50 to 60 million individual specimens ranging from microscopic organisms to the largest predators and herbivores. The zones where our ecosystems merge 23% of Earth's land surface. Those are permanent. The chemistry has changed. The biology has changed. The oxygen content in those regions is now consistent with Cretaceous period atmosphere, approximately 30% higher than our norm.
Can we reclaim them?
No. That's their territory now. It always will be. We've reset the board, stopped the spread, but we can't undo what's already happened.
Can you explain why the creatures can't simply be eliminated with military force?
The scale makes that impossible. We're talking about entire ecosystems, from the largest predators down to microscopic organisms in the soil and water. Even if we could somehow eliminate all the visible creatures, which would be a monumental task given their numbers and capabilities, the fundamental changes to the environment would remain. The prehistoric plant spores alone have spread throughout these regions. The soil chemistry has altered. The air composition is different. It's as if patches of Earth from 70 million years ago have been transplanted into our time, and those patches are thriving.
What about the borders between our territories and theirs? Are they stable?
For now, yes. The pulse created what we're calling demarcation zones between the prehistoric and modern ecosystems. These boundary areas have distinctive electromagnetic properties that seem to act as natural barriers. They're not impermeable. Creatures can cross them, but they do create a sort of natural frontier. However, we're already seeing evidence of boundary testing. The more intelligent predator species probe the edges regularly. They're learning, adapting, finding weaknesses. Any human settlements near these boundaries will need permanent defensive measures.
Thank you for this sobering assessment, Dr. Murphy. New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, Cairo, all are now classified as unrecoverable zones. Major population centers that fell within overlap territories before the pulse are considered permanently lost. Our cartographers have begun the process of redrawing world maps. The familiar shapes of continents remain, but the human footprint upon them has dramatically contracted. Coastal regions are particularly affected, with nearly 70% now dominated by prehistoric marine ecosystems. Current population estimates put global human numbers at approximately 2 billion, down from nearly 8 billion before the first breach. Food production capacity has been permanently reduced by more than half. Scientists are already working on new agricultural methods to maximize yield in our reduced territories. Vertical farming, hydroponic systems, and genetically modified crops adapted for higher growth rates are all being developed. Protein cultivation from algae and insects is expanding rapidly. Reports from frontier settlements describe a new phenomenon: scavenger expeditions into overlap zones. Small, heavily armed teams venture into dinosaur territory to recover technology, medicine, and other irreplaceable resources from abandoned cities. The mortality rate for these missions exceeds 60%, but volunteers continue to come forward. We stop the bleeding, but the wound remains. The new borders between human territory and prehistoric zones are being fortified. Humanity now occupies approximately 25% of the Earth's surface that we once controlled. The remainder belongs either to the creatures or is contested territory. Early observation posts along the demarcation zones report fascinating and disturbing developments. Pack-hunting dinosaurs have been observed using coordinated tactics to test defenses. Flying reptiles establish regular patrol patterns over their territories. The larger herbivores travel in protective formations with juveniles in the center, much like modern elephants. What comes next is adaptation. Learning to survive in a world we now share with beings from our distant past. Coexistence may be possible in some areas, conflict is inevitable in others. The next generation of humans will grow up in a fundamentally different world. Children born today will learn about dinosaurs not from books and museums, but from watchtowers and defense perimeters. They'll inherit a planet divided between two epochs, a strange hybrid of prehistory and modernity. The President will address the nation in 1 hour to outline the path forward. We'll carry that broadcast live. This is Alan Sattler, reporting on day one of humanity's new reality. We take you now to a secure military facility where the President will address what remains of our nation.
The President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, my fellow survivors, we have closed the doorway to the past, but we cannot undo what came through. The CERN team has succeeded in sealing the breaches between our time and the prehistoric era. No new creatures will emerge, but those already here remain. The creatures that now share our world, and let me be clear, they are sharing it now. They are here to stay. The dinosaurs, the ancient plants, the primordial insects and microbes, they are a permanent part of Earth's biosphere once again. I wish I could tell you that we will reclaim what we've lost, that we'll rebuild our cities, restore our civilization to what it was, but I cannot, and I will not, offer false hope. Our task is no longer to reclaim what we lost. It's about what we do next. It's about survival in what remains. I am announcing the reorganization of our remaining territories. The safe zones established during the crisis will now become permanent settlements. The provisional governments in these areas will be formalized. Resources will be allocated based on sustainability and defensibility. Day America we knew. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's gone. The eastern seaboard, the Gulf Coast, the West Coast, all are now dominated by creatures from Earth's distant past. Our territorial waters extend only as far as we can actively defend them. But Americans survive. We adapt. We've always adapted. Remember The Last of Us. The people who survived weren't the strongest. They were the ones who learned to live in the new world. That's us now. We're learning to live in a new world. A world we share with creatures that ruled this planet long before we did, and may yet rule parts of it again. In the coming weeks, I will announce specific initiatives focused on, first, securing our remaining territories against incursion. Second, establishing sustainable food production in safe zones. Third, rebuilding essential infrastructure with the resources we have left. And finally, researching ways we might someday reclaim at least some of what we've lost. Though I must emphasize that this is a long-term goal, not an immediate possibility. We face hard years ahead, perhaps generations of struggle. But humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars. We will survive this too. This is not the victory we hoped for. This is not the ending we wanted, but it's the one we have. God help us all, and God bless America. What's left of it?
The President there, speaking from a secure military facility, acknowledging the new reality we face as a species. The breaches have been closed, but roughly 3/4 of Earth's surface is now either dominated by prehistoric life forms or contested territory. We'll continue our coverage as humanity begins to adapt to this strange new world we now inhabit. This is Alan Sattler reporting.
Hey everybody, if anybody's out there listening to this, man, I don't even know where to start. This is Owen Grady broadcasting from, well, does it matter? I'm in a reinforced structure about 8,000 feet above sea level with a group of about 30 other survivors. I've lost track of how long it's been since everything changed. Time works differently now. We measure it in before and after. Before the breaches, after the fall of civilization. Simple as that. This is probably the last episode of this podcast. Our generator is running on fumes, and we need to conserve power for essential systems. Plus, broadcasting like this is dangerous. The predators have figured out that radio signals usually mean humans, and humans mean food. They're smarter than we gave them credit for. Not human smart, but smart in a way that's perfect for hunting. It's wild to think back to that episode I did, right after Tokyo. Remember that? When I had Roland Tembo on. Last I heard, he was helping evacuate people from Charleston when a pack of those raptor things swarmed the convoy. I keep thinking about how arrogant we were, how sure we were that we owned this planet. We thought we were the apex predators, the end result of evolution. Turns out we were just placeholders, keeping the seat warm until the real owners came back. The weirdest thing is how quickly we've adapted. Humans, I mean, those of us who survived, kids born after the breaches, they don't know any different. They learn to move silently before they learn to read. They can identify different predator tracks and calls before they can write their own names. Evolution in real time, man, it's fascinating and terrifying all at once. I've seen things I never thought possible, watched a T-Rex bring down a building, seen flying reptiles the size of small planes nesting on the ruins of the Golden Gate Bridge, watched herds of massive herbivores migrate through what used to be the Midwest, 100,000 strong, the ground literally shaking under their weight. It's humbling, you know? I was wrong about a lot of things in those early days. I thought this was an extinction event for humanity. And yeah, we lost billions. No way around that. But we're still here, small groups, scattered widely, adapting to this new world, learning to live alongside these ancient creatures, or at least learning to stay out of their way. There's this valley about 20 miles from our settlement. Sometimes I go there, find a high spot, and just watch. There's a family of what our resident paleontologist calls Alamosaurus massive, long-necked herbivores. They move through the valley every few weeks, following some migration pattern we don't understand yet. And when they come through, the ground vibrates. You can feel it in your chest, like being at a concert, but it's just nature. Their nature. From a time so distant, we can barely comprehend it. And in those moments, watching these creatures that should have been extinct for 65 million years, I feel this weird sense of, I don't know if peace is the right word, acceptance, maybe. This planet was theirs long before it was ours. Maybe it was always meant to be theirs again. Maybe we were just a blip in Earth's timeline, a temporary anomaly. The scientists who survived tell us that the world is finding a new balance. The overlap zones where prehistoric and modern ecosystems meet are stabilizing. In some places, the two are even integrating modern plants adapting to prehistoric soil chemistry, contemporary animals finding niches alongside their ancient counterparts. Life finds a way, right? It always does. Some of the settlements are starting to communicate again, rebuild, trade. I've heard rumors of a community in the Rockies that's actually domesticated some of the smaller herbivores, using them for labor, for food, adapting. That's what humans do best. We adapt. I don't know if anyone will ever hear this broadcast. The range on our transmitter is limited, and there aren't many receivers out there anymore. But if you're listening, if you've survived, just know you're not alone. There are others. Find them if you can. Stay hidden if you must, but keep going. Keep living. This is the last episode of Unfiltered Reality. The most unfiltered reality of all turned out to be something none of us saw coming. A world where we're no longer at the top of the food chain. A world where we've been humbled. It's a beautiful world, though, in its way. Raw, wild, real, like Earth is remembering what it used to be. For the last time, this is Owen Grady, survivor, witness, just a guy trying to make sense of a world turned upside down. If you're out there, stay strong, stay quiet, stay alive. Peace.
If anyone is receiving this, this is 7 years since the initial breach, 6.5 since the quantum pulse sealed the fractures. I don't know how many people can still hear me. Our transmission equipment is failing. The generators that power this facility have maybe 3 days of fuel left. After that, this station goes dark like so many others. This broadcast bunker was designed to maintain communications during nuclear war. It was never meant for the world we now inhabit. But perhaps that's appropriate. The old world is gone. A new one has taken its place. For those who still receive our signal, here is the status of human civilization as we understand it. Confirmed settlements Svalbard, northern Iceland, sections of the Canadian Arctic, high-altitude communities in the Andes and Himalayas, underground installations in central Australia, portions of the Siberian Plateau, and scattered enclaves in defensible terrain across every continent. Estimated human population 2.1 billion, down from 8 billion before the breaches began, but stable now, holding steady. Percentage of Earth's surface under human control, approximately 7%. The rest belongs to them. The numbers are staggering when you see them all together. When we first sealed the breaches, scientists estimated perhaps 50 to 80 million creatures had come through. But those early counts were done during chaos, with limited satellite coverage and most monitoring stations offline. We were wrong, drastically wrong. With over 200 separate breach events occurring across every continent, each open for hours or even days, and creatures spreading immediately into territories we couldn't monitor, we simply didn't see the full scope of the incursion until it was far too late. Conservative estimates now put the prehistoric population at 200 million specimens, 200 million creatures from the Cretaceous period now living on modern Earth. That's not counting the microorganisms, insects, and plant life, just the large fauna we can actually count. The large herbivores number around 120 million, massive herds that move across plains like living geological forces. Some migrations involve tens of thousands of animals. The ground shakes when they pass. The predators number approximately 30 million. Everything from pack hunters the size of wolves to apex predators that dwarf elephants. They've established territories, hunting grounds, breeding populations. Flying reptiles control the skies, perhaps 40 million of them, some with wingspans exceeding 40 feet. They nest on our abandoned skyscrapers, roost on our bridges, patrol coastlines in formations that block out the sun. Marine reptiles dominate the oceans and waterways. All maritime trade routes are now theirs. Coastal cities stand empty, reclaimed by creatures that ruled the seas 70 million years ago. These aren't just animals that wandered through portals. These are functioning ecosystems that have reestablished themselves on Earth, complete with predator-prey relationships, migration patterns, breeding cycles. They're not visitors, they're residents. But humanity hasn't been idle. We've been learning, adapting. The settlements I mentioned aren't refugee camps anymore. They're permanent communities, villages and small towns built on the principles of a world we're only beginning to understand. Electricity is used sparingly now. We've learned the hard way that electromagnetic signatures attract predators. The more technology we use, the more visible we become. So we've adapted. Solar power is limited to essential systems. Medical equipment, water purification, emergency communications. Everything else runs on human power. Wind, water wheels. Technologies our ancestors would recognize. Most settlements have implemented strict dark protocols. No transmissions after sunset. No lights visible from the air. No engine sounds that might attract attention. We move quietly now, carefully, like prey animals, because that's what we are. But we're clever prey. We're learning their patterns. The predators hunt at dawn and dusk primarily. The herbivores migrate seasonally along predictable routes. The flying reptiles avoid certain weather patterns. Knowledge is survival. Some communities have achieved something remarkable. They've begun domesticating herbivores. The settlement at Lake Titicaca in the Andes has successfully tamed a breeding population of smaller ceratopians. They're using them as we once used oxen, for plowing, for hauling, for transport. A community in New Zealand reports similar success with what they're calling shieldbacks, armored herbivores about the size of cattle. They're hardy, they reproduce reliably, and their meat is edible. A sustainable food source in a world where traditional livestock can't survive outside protective enclosures. The Canadian Arctic settlements have learned to follow herbivore migrations, moving their communities seasonally to avoid both predators and harsh weather. They've become nomadic, living in portable structures, harvesting what they need from the massive herds that pass through their territories. It's a different way of life, harder in many ways, simpler in others, but it works. Children born after the breaches, we call them post-breach generation. They don't remember the old world. To them, this is normal. Dinosaurs aren't monsters from movies. They're just part of the landscape. Dangerous, yes, but no more so than wolves or bears were to our distant ancestors. These children learn to read tracks before they learn to read books. They can identify species by sound. They understand instinctively when to freeze, when to hide, when to run. They're growing up in a world we could barely imagine, and they're thriving. Some settlements have established schools again, teaching reading, mathematics, history, but also teaching survival skills that would have seemed primitive just 2 years ago. Tracking, foraging, silent movement, weather prediction, animal behavior. We're not raising office workers anymore, we're raising survivors. And they're magnificent. Trade between settlements has resumed, carefully, dangerously, but necessarily. Runners travel between communities on foot, using paths that avoid predator territories. They carry messages, medicine, seeds, knowledge. The mortality rate is high, but volunteers keep coming forward. Some things are worth the risk. Several settlements have established signal systems, mirrors during the day, carefully shielded lights at night, simple messages over vast distances, safe, danger, need help, moving location. We've started mapping the new world, documenting which areas are permanently controlled by predators, which territories change seasonally, where herbivores congregate, which routes are safest for travel, which water sources are contaminated with prehistoric microorganisms. This knowledge is being compiled, copied by hand, distributed to every settlement that can receive it. A new library for a new world. We've learned to coexist in ways we never imagined. The settlement at Bergen, Norway has built their entire community on elevated platforms, 20 feet off the ground, connected by rope bridges. Predators can't reach them. They harvest fish from the fjords using methods that don't attract marine reptiles. They're surviving. A group in the Scottish Highlands lives in renovated castle ruins. Stone walls thick enough to withstand anything short of the largest predators. Elevated positions with clear sight lines. They've turned medieval fortifications into modern survival shelters. The Tibetan settlements have the advantage of altitude. Most dinosaur species don't venture above 14,000 feet. The thin air that challenges humans is impossible for creatures built for Cretaceous oxygen levels. Up there, humanity has found sanctuaries. Some communities have taken a different approach. They've learned to mask their presence entirely. Underground facilities that show no surface signs, geothermal power that produces no electromagnetic signature, filtered ventilation that disperses human scent. They've become invisible. The last unified military command fell 3 months ago, but that doesn't mean we're defenseless. What we have now are community defense forces, people who've learned to fight smart rather than fight hard. They know they can't defeat a T-Rex in open combat, so they don't try. They use barriers, traps, diversions. They protect their communities not by eliminating threats, but by making their settlements unattractive targets. Some groups have become remarkably good at it. Sophisticated early warning systems using nothing but rope, bells, and carefully trained observation posts. Defensive perimeters that funnel predators away from living areas. Noisemakers that simulate larger predators to scare off smaller threats. Violence is always the last resort, because every fight risks casualties we can't afford. Better to avoid, better to hide, Better to wait for the danger to pass. We've lost contact with many settlements. Europe has gone largely silent. Asia reports sporadically. Australia last transmitted 6 days ago, but I don't think that means they're gone. I think it means they've stopped broadcasting, stopped using the technology that makes them visible. They're out there, living quietly, surviving in ways we might never know about unless we meet them in person someday. The world is bigger now, more mysterious. We can't see everything from satellites anymore. We can't know what's happening on the other side of the planet in real time, and maybe that's okay. Maybe that's how humanity lived for most of its existence. I've been broadcasting when I can over the last 10 years, not even sure if anyone is still listening, telling you where it's safe, what to do, how to survive, but I think my job is done. Not because humanity is finished, but because humanity has adapted. The people still alive don't need my broadcasts anymore. They know how to survive. They're teaching their children. They're building communities. They're learning to thrive in a world that would have terrified us 10 years ago. We're not the dominant species anymore. That's true. We control 7% of the planet's surface. The rest belongs to creatures that had it first. But we're still here. 2 billion of us, living, adapting, surviving. The cities are gone. The highways are empty. The airports stand silent. But in thousands of small communities across the globe, humanity endures. We cook over fires now. We grow our own food. We live in smaller groups where everyone knows everyone. We've rediscovered skills our grandparents knew and we'd forgotten. And we're teaching our children to live in harmony with a world we don't control. This planet belongs to the dinosaurs again. But they're willing to share it with those of us smart enough, quiet enough, humble enough to coexist. We opened a door we couldn't close. We brought back an age we'd thought was lost forever. We made a terrible mistake. But we're not extinct. We're not defeated. We're just smaller now, more careful, more respectful of the fact that we're not alone on this planet, that we never really were. The human chapter isn't ending. It's just being rewritten in smaller letters, in quieter voices. But it continues. If you're hearing this, know that you're not alone. Across this changed world, millions of us survive. We've learned to live as part of the ecosystem, not as its masters. Find your community. Learn from your neighbors. Teach your children. Adapt. Survive. And someday, when your grandchildren ask what the old world was like, tell them about the cities that touched the clouds. Tell them about the networks that connected the world. Tell them about the hubris that thought we could control everything. And then tell them about the world we built after. Smaller, quieter, humbler, but enduring. This is Alan Sattler, not the last voice of humanity's dominion. Just one voice among millions who adapted, survived, and learned to thrive in Earth's second age of dinosaurs. Stay quiet, stay smart, stay alive. Signing off.